Join me as I take on the challenge of conquering my biggest problems and finding wisdom through my faith in Jesus Christ. Today, I want to talk about the susceptible and important topic, suicide prevention, and how faith in Jesus can provide hope and wisdom in the darkest of times. That's what we're going to be diving into today. This is a continuation from Exodus chapter 20, verse 13, thou shalt not kill. Let's get started. We have our Bibles open up to Exodus chapter 20, verse 13. You must not murder. The scriptures that I'm going to be using is flowing at the bottom of your screen, so you'll be able to take notes and show yourself approve. Let's go into this interpretation. There's no doubt that suicide is viewed differently by different people and different societies. For example, can a Christian believer commit suicide? Become so despondent, depressed, and discouraged that he takes his own life? Can a person be justified if he is heroic that he undertakes a suicide mission for his nation or some other great cause? This has happened often down through the centuries and in history. The Japanese kamikaze pilots of the Second World War are a prime example of this. In fact, many of the surviving men who have fought in wars would know of a man who gave themselves to undertake a suicidal mission. One thing is sure, a deliberate suicide to escape this life with all its trials and problems is a crime that should never be committed. Suicide happens far too often, but it's never the answer though. God has stamped his image upon every human being, every human life, and no person should ever destroy himself. There are three strong reasons why a person should never commit suicide. That's what we're going to be diving into right now. The first one is God forbids murder, and suicide is the murdering of oneself. We see that in Exodus chapter 20, verses 13 that we have here on the screen. But also I want to show you in Romans chapter 13, verse 9. For the commandments say, you must not commit adultery, you must not murder, you must not steal, you must not covet. These and other such commandments are summed up in this one commandment: love your neighbor as yourself. The Life Application Study Bible says this: somehow many of us have gotten the idea that self-love is wrong. But if this were the case, it would be pointless to love our neighbors as ourselves. But Paul explains what he means by self-love. Even if you have low self-esteem, you probably don't willingly let yourself go hungry. You take care of your body and may even exercise. You clothe yourselves reasonably well. You make sure there's a roof over your head. You try not to let yourself be cheated or injured. You get angry if someone tries to ruin your marriage. This is the kind of love we need to have for our neighbors. Do we see that others are fed, clothed, and housed as well as they can be? Are we concerned about issues of social justice? Loving others as ourselves mean actively working to see that their needs are met. Interestingly, people who focus on others rather than themselves rarely suffer low self-esteem. I also took a look at 1 Peter chapter 4 verse 15. If you suffer, however, it must not be for murder, stealing, making trouble, or prying into other people's affairs. The second part, the person destroys the very image of God that is stamped upon his or her life when they commit suicide. We see this in Genesis chapter 1, verses 27. So God created human beings in his own image. In the image of God, he created them. Male and female, he created them. The Life Application Study Bible tells us God made both man and woman in his image. Neither man nor woman is made more in the image of God than the other. From the beginning of the Bible places both man and woman at the pinnacle of God's creation. Neither sex is exalted and neither is depreciated. The third, Jesus Christ, God's very own Son, loves and cares for us all. He helps us conquer and overcome whatever problems confront us. No matter how terrible, he will give us wisdom and show us how to conquer that problem. We see it in scriptures. Hebrews chapter 2 verse 18 says this: Since he himself has gone through suffering and testing, he is able to help us when we are being tested. The Life Application Study Bible says, knowing that Christ suffered pain and faced temptation helps us face our trials. Jesus understands our struggle because he faces them as a human being. We can trust Christ to help us survive suffering and overcome temptation. When you face trials, go to Jesus for strength and patience. He understands your needs and is able to help. I also found this in Hebrews chapter 4, verses 15 to 16. This high priest of ours understands our weakness, for he faces all the same testing we do, yet he did not sin. So let us come boldly to the throne of our gracious God. There we will receive his mercy and will find grace to help us when we need it most. The Life Application Study Bible says this: Jesus is like us because he has experienced a full range of temptation throughout his life as a human being. We can be comforted knowing that Jesus faced temptation. He can sympathize with us. We can be encouraged through that Jesus faced temptation without giving in to sin. He shows us that we do not have to sin when facing the seductive lures of temptation. Jesus is the only perfect human being who has ever lived. For verse 16, the Life Application Study Bible says, prayer is our approach to God, and we are to come boldly. Some Christians approach God meekly with heads hung low, afraid to ask him to meet their needs. Others play flippantly, giving little thought to what they say. Come with reverence because he is your king, but also come with bold assurance because he is your friend and counselor. I also seen this in 1 Corinthians chapter 10 verse 13. The temptations in your life are no different from what others experience, and God is faithful. He will not allow the temptation to be more than you can stand. When you are tempted, he will show you a way out so that you can endure. The Life Application Study Bible tells us this: in a culture filled with moral depravity and sin-inducing pressure, Paul encourages the Corinthians about temptation. He said, 1. Temptation happens to everyone, so don't feel you're being singled out. Number 2, others have resisted temptation, and so can you. And number 3, any temptation can be resisted because God will show you a way to resist it. God will help you resist temptation by helping you recognize those people and situations that give you trouble. B, run from anything you know is wrong. C, choose to do only what is right. D, pray for God's help. And E, seek friends who love God and can offer help when you are tempted. Running from a tempting situation is your first step on the way to victory. And I found James chapter 1 verse 5. If you need wisdom, ask our generous God, and he will give it to you. He will not rebuke you for asking. The Life Application Study Bible tells us this: the wisdom that we need has 3 distinctive characteristics. It is practical. The wisdom from God relates to life even during the most trying times. It is not a wisdom isolated from suffering and trials. This wisdom is the tool by which trials are overcome. An intelligent person may have profound ideas, but a wise person puts profound ideas into action. Intelligence will allow someone to describe several reasons why the car broke down. This wise person chooses the most likely reason and proceed to take action. Number 2, it is divine. God's wisdom goes beyond common sense. Common sense does not lead us to choose a joy in the middle of trial. The wisdom begins with respect for God, leads to living by God's direction, and results in the ability to tell right from wrong. It is a wisdom that James will describe in length in chapter 3. Number 3, it is Christ-like. Asking for wisdom is ultimately asking to be like Christ. The Bible identifies Christ as the wisdom of God in 1 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 24. Now, having looked at it, what should our attitude be? And what is the church attitude? Suicidal people and their families. To the genuine Christian believers, the answer is obvious. We are to minister to them. We are to seek out and help all who hurt and face desperate problems and circumstances. We are not to sit around waiting for hurting people to cross our path. We are to actively seek out, find, and help hurting people. This is the call of every Christian believer and the mission of the church. Christ made this perfectly clear. He made this clear in Matthew chapter 20, verse 28. For even the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve others, and to give his life as a ransom for many. We also see this in Luke chapter 4, verse 18. The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, for he has anointed me to bring good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim that captives will be released, that the blind will see, that the oppressed will be set free. Jesus made this clear in Philippians chapter 2, verses 5 to 7 as well. We must have the same attitude that Christ Jesus had. Though he was God, he did not think of equality with God as something to cling to. Instead, he gave up his divine privileges. He took the humble position of a slave and was born as a human being. In Luke chapter 19, verse 10, for the Son of Man came to seek and save those who are lost. We see this in John chapter 20, verses 21. Jesus says, and again he said, peace be with you. As the Father has sent me, so I am sending you. The Life Application Study Bible tells us this. Jesus again identified himself with his Father. He told the disciples by whose authority he did his work. Then he passed the job of his disciples of spreading the good news of salvation around the world. Whatever God has asked you to do, remember, 1, your authority comes from God, and 2, Jesus has demonstrated by words and actions how to accomplish the job he has given you. As the Father sent Jesus, sends his followers and you. The rates of mental health issues are rising at an alarming rate. Desperation and anxiety and other mental health disorders are affecting more and more people every single day. We need spiritual guidance to overcome life challenges. But how can we find the strength to keep going when everything seems hopeless? Let's break this down into 3 key segments: life value, faith role in healing, and practical steps to seek help. First, let's talk about the value of life. Every human being life is precious and sacred, and God loves every one of us unconditionally. He is the giver of life, and he wants us to cherish and honor the gift he has given us. Next, let's explore the role of faith in healing. Faith is not just to feel good or a feel good aspect of our lives. It's actually a powerful tool that can bring us comfort and healing. When we put our trust in God, he can lift us up and give us strength that we need to overcome even the toughest circumstances and challenges. Third, let's talk about the practical steps that we can seek for help. If you are struggling with suicidal thoughts or feeling a hopelessness, please know that there is help out there. There is help available. Reach out to trusted friends, family members, and mental health professionals. Even go so far, write it on a piece of paper and just give it to someone. You can also call a suicidal hotline and text line for support. And most importantly, turn to God in prayer and ask for his guidance and comfort. I want to share a powerful testimony with you. From a friend. A few years ago, he was going through a tough time in his life and he felt like giving up. But then he remembered a Bible verse that said, God is our refuge and strength and every present help in trouble. He clung to that verse. He prayed for God to help him. He miraculously intervened in his life. He can do the same for you as well. According to recent studies, 75% of people who have suicidal thoughts report feeling a sense of disconnection from others. But faith can bring us connection and community. When we put our trust in God, we become a part of a larger family that loves and supports us. Psychologist Dr. Kelly Crabb writes, faith is not a magic pill that takes away our pain, but it can be a powerful catalyst for healing and growth. I couldn't agree more. Faith is not a quick fix, but it is a journey of transformation that can bring us hope and healing. Some people may think that faith and mental health do not mix, and that seeking spiritual guidance is somehow less effective than seeking professional help. But I strongly disagree. Faith is not a replacement of professional help, but it can be a powerful complement to it. Seek help and seek God's guidance as well. In conclusion, let us remember the importance of valuing life and finding wisdom through Jesus in the face of struggles. God forbids that we should give up our life because he has given us life to live abundantly. I want to thank you for watching, everyone. And if you have any thoughts, experiences, or questions about faith and mental health, please share them in the comment section below. If you're interested in watching more videos on this topic, and I invite you to check out my other videos on my YouTube channel that deals with faith and mental health. God bless you. God bless your family. And I'll see you in the next. Thanks.